Welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're going back in the day with a Manly legend. That's right, it's the one and only Geoff Toovey. How are you, man?
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. It's been a long time in the making. Hopefully, we can communicate with our audience and they can have a bit of fun.
Yeah, man. It's just so good to have you on. We're finally going to have that investigation you've been looking forward to for so long. We're going to crack back through your career. But what have you been up to recently, man? What are you up to in recent times with yourself?
Well, I ended up getting an offer to come back to Manly and oversee their coaching pathways area. So we've got seven teams at the moment. We had eight teams coming through the junior pathways to hopefully get some stars of the future coming through. And it's been exciting and a lot of hard work.
Awesome, man. It's good to see you back involved in like
Yeah.
seeing those players coming through. We all love Geoff Toovey, and you've been around the game for so long, like my whole life. It's amazing to have you still around. So, without further ado, man, we're gonna rewind the clock, go all the way back to the beginning. And what I ask everyone is, where did you grow up, and what was life like for you as a young fella?
I'm currently just working down at a place called Sydney Academy of Sport, which is down in Narrabeen. And I grew up probably just 5 minutes up the road at Belrose. Played all my junior football there, the Belrose Eagles. Maybe that was a bit of a sign.
Yeah,
Belrose Eagles, we had from the under sevens till I was 17, 18. I played
yeah,
there and played through the junior Manly system. The Harold Matthews, the SG Ball, the Jersey Flag, which is back then was the 15s, the 18s, and the under 20s. Had a great time, and it was a lot of fun. I know it's changed, but now it seems like it's a bit more like work now. But definitely back when I was coming through was a great fun time, and really enjoyed it.
yeah, man. So, what was it about rugby league like when you first got involved with it? You're only a little fella amongst probably a lot of bigger guys back there. What was it about the game that kept you coming back every week, putting your body on the line?
Well, first I suppose it's my dad, who probably had great ideas that he could be a professional footballer, but he never got to make it that far. He was pretty ordinary, apparently. So
Yeah,
he got myself and my brother involved at an early age. All my friends, school, whether it be at school or in the weekends, we all played rugby league. We did a cross code dabbling as well. Played a lot of rugby union as well on a Saturday morning, then league on a Saturday afternoon. And when we got a bit older, the league would go to Sunday, so we play Saturday rugby and rugby league on the Sunday.
work it, man, work it, wicked. So, you said you made all those rep sides. Like, how did you, find that step up? Playing in those rep teams. Did you find the level increased every time as you
Well,
came through?
yeah, it was, but again, I was playing with a lot of my friends and my enemy, not my enemies, but my competitors from other
Yeah,
teams. So we had a great fun. We had a tight knit group. The Harold Matthews, which was down to 15th at the time. I mean, I was the captain. I ran out and they said, "Okay, son, you can go off now." They thought I was the ball boy. So that didn't go over too well with me. But anyway, I'm sure that my teammates, my fellow teammates, found it quite funny. Yeah, you can go off, son. Yeah, it was great. I said, "No, mate, I'm the captain." Yeah.
oh, I love it. So Manly comes calling. 1988. You sign up with Manly. How did you sign with Manly? How did you get that first contract, and just how exciting was it?
Yeah, well, it was fantastic. I mean, I actually went up in 87, and it was I played a bit of reserve grade there, a couple of games reserve grade, and it was the last 87 was the last grand final at the SCG, and Manly were playing Canberra, and the
Yes.
reserve grade were playing Penrith in the pre-match. So I was invited to go onto the bench for the reserve grade, and I was fortunate enough to get 10 minutes at the back end. We were losing and we lost the game, but I got to sit on the bench in the dugout at the SCG 1987 when Manly won the first grade against Canberra. I got to sit there and watch the Cliffy Lions have a great game. And a couple of years later, I'm playing with Cliffy.
That's amazing, man. That's so cool. So, what
Yeah.
was it like being a rookie, signing with Manly. You come into the club, now you're a first grader. You're in that first grade side. You've got your Fatty Mortons, Michael O'Connors, and Cliffy, like you said, Darryl Williams. Like, there's so many legends there. Are you nervous? Are you excited? What's that whole feeling like joining a side full of superstars?
Well, I mean, it was fantastic. I was in awe of all those people you just mentioned. But, we used to train on a Tuesday and a Thursday nights. So I was studying at the time at university. But I'd come down, we'd train Tuesday, all the three grades, the 23s, reserve grade, first grade. And then on the Thursday, you'd have your own team trainings in the afternoon. But then I was only a young man. Luckily, I was just 18. And they go, okay, right, we're going across the Brookvale pub now. So we train all Thursday, teamwork. Then we go across the Brookvale pub and have a couple of beers and then go home. So it was a great experience. I was sitting in awe, sipping on a Recious, I think it was, and looking around at my heroes and saying, oh, wow, here I am. So it was a great experience those first few years.
Yeah, man. Was it something you always strive for to play first grade? Like, was that your dream, or is it just something that kind of happened?
No, yeah, it's funny that no, it was never my dream. I just played because I like to play, and it just so happened that I was okay at it. So my parents enabled me to join those rep teams, and as I said, a lot of those rep teams, I was playing with my friends. It wasn't like you were playing with players from outside your area, which you are probably now. But back then, it was all local kids that you knew
Yeah.
and were your friends. So it made sense that you'd form a team, a rep team, the best team you could from the area, and try and win a comp. And we were fortunate to do that at the in the Jersey Flag, and that was the year that I progressed to the under 23s into reserve grade in that 1987 year. And 1988, I went on to play under Alan Thompson in reserve grade the full year, and we were fortunate enough to win the grand final that year in the reserve grade. And I managed to play a few games, one notable one against the touring English side who
Okay.
were out here. And first grade, we were obviously missing a couple of our players, the Fatty Bordens, the Noel Cleals. They're off in the Australian team. So the midweek competition, you play a second string team from England. And
Okay.
they came to Brookvale Oval one night, and I was fortunate enough to play against them, and we upset them and beat them that night. So it was a great game, and it's probably my first recognisable run on side where I actually was in the starting side of first grade.
Oh, yeah, man, that's incredible. And so, like being a smaller guy in the park, on the park, against all these enormous forwards, and you played in the halves, the majority of your career,
Yeah.
but your defense was something that, I've had lots of people on this podcast, and they all mentioned, like, if I ask who was the one person you hated being tackled by, they all mentioned Geoff Toovey because you just had this unbelievable technique. Was that something you did, or is it crafted as part of your game to sort of, be able to compete with these bigger men?
Well, not really. It was something that I had to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the game. As I said, the referee told me to get off because I was the ball boy. I was never a big human, so if you wanted to compete at those higher levels, you needed to change your game or to adapt your game to make sure you can compete with those larger players. So it was something that was forged over many years. Don't worry about that. And and I've got lots of scars and I've got lots of stitches due to that fact as well. So there's plenty of good side and upside to it, but there's plenty of downside as well of being a smaller player. Just the right height for those elbows and knees.
Oh, that's funny. So, 1988, round 10, Brookvale Oval, you're named to make your first grade debut against Cronulla. And they've got guys like Dane Sorensen, Gavin Miller, Andrew Ettingshausen, Mark McGaw. What are your memories of that run on debut or off the bench, I think it was, getting out there, having your first taste of first grade?
Well, that was again so long ago. It was just exciting, like being on the bench is. I think being on the bench is worse than starting a game. I mean, if you start a game, you can get prepared and you run out, and you know what's going to happen. But if you're on the bench, you don't know when you're going to go on or
Yeah.
what the even what position. I mean, obviously I was going to go generally in the halves, but you never know. I've been on the off the bench to hooker a few times as well. So um, that's the hardest preparation to come off the bench. And whilst they've been competing for 10, 20 or 30 minutes, the team that's on the field, you've got to try and bring yourself up and then make a difference as well. So if you're coming off the bench, your job is to make a difference to the team, not just be a participant. You actually raise the level of intensity. So
Yep.
off the bench, they expect you to do something straight away. And I mean, that's where the pressure is. That's where the pressure lies for a reserve, is to come on and make a difference. And hopefully, I can't remember, it was that long ago, but hopefully I made a difference.
Right. So, as I said, 1988, you went to the finals. You got a taste of finals against Balmain. Is that level intensified when you go into a finals match?
Yeah, it does. As I mentioned before, like just the atmosphere of those. I mean, people say that the crowd doesn't matter, but that's a load of rubbish. I mean, the crowd does matter. It's so exciting running out of that tunnel, and you hear the crowd cheering or booing. I personally, I like the boos because it makes me want to win, rub it in their face. But the cheers are just as good. But for me personally, the boos are better. But it's such an exciting time when you've got a capacity crowd. When I say capacity crowd, it doesn't matter whether it's at the SFS or at Brookvale Oval, as long as it's fairly full and they're vocal. Everyone loves a vocal crowd, and the players, no more than the players, to spur them on. It's nothing better than when you hear that chant in the crowd,
Yeah.
either your name or your team's name. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, you did unfortunately lose that finals match, but the following year you established yourself in the side, first choice halfback. How did you just handle that week in, week out grind of footy for the first time for a full season?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because things have changed so much, and I went through that whole change as well. As I
Yeah,
mentioned before, we trained Tuesdays, Thursdays. You have a captain run Saturday morning, and you play Sunday at 5 to 3. So
yeah.
that was a standard set thing. So
Was it?
um, now they train every day and mornings, and you've got dietitians and psychologists and psychiatrists
Pretty
and all
much.
sorts of things. But I went through that phase with Super League. So
Yeah,
those initial days, I was just, I said, a young man, excited to play with my heroes, turning up every week and thinking, who are these strange people cheering you on or booing you? Um,
yeah.
well, it was a bit of a whirlwind, to be honest with you. I was very excited at the same time, but in awe of what was going on. But I was probably unaware how important it was to those
Yeah.
people in the crowd, as you mentioned, um, to win and to lose. I just was out there doing my best. But they were so passionate, the fans, that back at the Lease Club, we'd always go back to the Lease Club after the games. Um, so if we lost, some of them would be near in tears, and if you won, they'd be all trying to buy you, a beer. So
Nice.
just the ebbs and flows of those emotions of the fans was incredible to witness. And I was more in awe of their passion for the game than even mine.
Awesome, man. And it's so funny you should mention that you only train like twice a week. You play on the weekend, it's probably get on the piss as well and all of that. But what did you do for work while you were a full-time, all sort of semi-professional like player back in those days?
Well, again, I was at uni doing a business degree, but then I was out being a chartered accountant, which is not too exciting. So for me, after a day's work, going to football and playing on the weekend was my escape. Whether I was in town working as I said as an accountant, I'd leave. I'd be able to. I was pretty flexible. My boss was really good, and he'd say, "Okay, training at 4:30. I better leave. I got to leave at 3 to get down to
Yeah,
Brookvale from town." So yeah, they looked after me where I worked, but it was just an
nice.
escapism to get down to training, and to play on the weekend was just just I could release all those frustrations that I'd built up during the week at work.
Yeah. It wasn't it great though? Those were the days where, and people are still passionate about their clubs now, but I think the players were maybe more passionate about their club when you were playing for your club that you grew up, around. So
Yes.
such a great time, eh? Like, to go play for your club on the weekends. Yeah.
Well, it was, and I think my mother and father are still around. Actually, they I think they probably liked it more than me. They were very proud of me, but they loved they used to go down to the old hill at Brookvale, sit there and watch their son run around. And I think they were again a bit like me, a bit in awe of all the fans and why there's people cheering and yelling out my son's name, running around with the Manly jumper on. So I mean they're very proud of what I'd achieved, but at the same time, probably a bit in wonderment of what's going on.
Moving a little bit forward, 1990, your form for Manly got you selected for New South Wales for game one of the series. How did you find out you'd made the squad? How excited and what did it mean for you to run out for your state?
That was an incredible time. Jack Gibson, who was the coach at the time,
Wow.
yeah, he I think he had a bit of a passion for how I played, and because
Okay.
of my size and whatnot. So I was on the bench there, so there was an opportunity for me to play. They put me on the bench. I got 10 minutes marking Les Kiss, who was the Queensland winger. They put me because they couldn't get me on the field, so they put me on the wing. We were losing. They put me on the wing, and because we lost, guess who got dropped? Me, the reserve, who got 10 minutes on the wing marking Les Kiss. But I was really appreciative of Jack Gibson giving me the opportunity to play for New South Wales. And I think wasn't for 3 or 4 years later till I got the next opportunity to do that again. So I was very grateful for that. And as I said, I think Jack had like an eye for talent, but he spotted me and thought I was good enough to play, so he gave me an opportunity, and I was forever grateful for that. 10 minutes on the wing against Les Kiss.
That's funny, man. Like I had a look at the side, and it was so stacked that you had Paul Surin and Glenn Lazarus and yourself on the bench. I
Mm.
mean, what a side, man! That's crazy. But what's it
Yeah.
like the atmosphere, getting out there, and the buzz of State of Origin? Like it's huge.
Again, just like I mentioned before, the crowds, like capacity crowds at the SFS, all chanting out the Blues. It was an incredible experience being around all those superstars in the team. Again, it was a week camp beforehand, obviously, and I roomed with Ian Roberts,
Oh wow.
who was playing for South at the time. He came to Manly a few years later,
Yep.
and we're good mates from her. He's a specimen of a human, like a huge athlete. And I was rooming with him. I'm going, oh my god, what have I done to end up here? But it was a fantastic time. A week in camp, rooming with Ian and meeting all those superstars in the team. But again, coming back to it, as a competitive football player, I wanted to be on the field, and unfortunately, I only got those 10 minutes. But it was disappointing that part. But everything else was just exciting.
I bet, man. I bet. What an experience. So, moving forward, 1991, terrific year for yourself and Manly. You went to second on the ladder. You guiding the team around all year. Had a real good shot at winning the premiership from there. But standing in your way was the third place North Sydney Bears, who had a wonderful season, and the reigning premiers in the Raiders. So, you guys went out in back-to-back sets, basically. But how amazing was it to go and play a final series and have a shot at the premiership, a genuine crack?
Yeah, we were a bit depleted, I think, from memory. In those years you were talking about there, but playing against North, that's a whole nother topic as well. Local rivals, the local derby. Whenever,
Yep.
whenever Manly played North, it was always a close contest. But I mean, we normally had the wood on them, but occasionally they get us. But because they were just up the road, the intensity of the game was lifted. It was lifted, And again, the fans. I mean, North Sydney unfortunately disappeared out of the comp, the first grade comp, several years ago, and the fans didn't go to the clubs. They actually dropped off rugby league altogether. So that's how tight knit those supporters are. The team goes and they go with them. So um, they were great days. I remember playing at North Sydney several times, and they used to have a cricket pitch in the middle.
Yep, yep,
And there was a man named Donnie McKinnon who was one of the legends of North Sydney, and he came to Manly.
yep.
And he was playing reserve grade that day with me. And I've actually saw him stop and actually go around the cricket pitch because no one wanted to get tackled on the cricket pitch because it was rock hard, and you know you're going to get hurt. So you could see him go up, and he just took a right and then a left and ran around the pitch because it was dead set. It was like concrete. If you landed on it, you're going to get concussion or you rip half the bark off your knees. So those games against North Sydney were awesome for the local rivalry, the Derby, but it was also pretty crazy because that cricket pitch in the middle of the field, it was really bad.
Mate, I remember watching some Winfield highlights videos when I was a kid, and you'd see just spear tackles on that cricket pitch, with North Sydney
It's
players.
such a
Oh, it's
beautiful ground.
crazy.
It's got the old style grandstands around. It's beautiful ground. It's
Yeah,
such a great place to watch football from. But that cricket pitch in the middle, oh my goodness, you just avoid it at all costs. I've seen blokes knocked out there, as I said, just skin torn off the knees there. It's yeah, it's unforgiving, that cricket pitch.
oh, that's gold. That is absolutely gold. So after that unfortunate finals exit, you actually went on the tour of Papua New Guinea, selected for the Kangaroos, playing in all 5 games, so including the 2 tests. So, what's it like to be one playing for Australia, but two going to Papua New Guinea, man?
Yeah, I'm playing for Australia. Australia is obviously the pinnacle, and I was very fortunate to do that on that tour. But that tour in particular, we were there for 3 weeks. It was one of the best times of my entire life going to Papua New
Man,
Guinea. The experience we had, tear gas going off over the field. You can look it up on the internet somewhere. Uh, Blokes hitting the deck. We'd score a try, and the crowd would get a bit boisterous, and they'd be firing M16s over their head to keep them back. I'm serious. And then boom, you hit the boof. The tear gas would go off. Then we'd hit the deck and put wet towels over our faces, and they're all in the crowd just laughing at us, like, because it didn't affect them. It was crazy times. It was one of the best trips I've ever experienced. We went to Rabaul before the
yeah,
volcano went off there. Played there. Went to Ley. Well, it was just an incredible time. Papua New Guinea is such a great place and such a rugby league stronghold. Um, I believe that they're going to get their NRL team in the next few years. So I'm really excited for them because what a country and what a passionate bunch of
yeah.
rugby league followers they are.
Man, I've heard some great stories from Papua New Guinea. What's it like yeah, playing and there's people in trees and villages with spears and bows and arrows and bows through their noses. It must be
Yeah,
insane, mate.
it was funny with the tear gas and whatnot, but then once they brought those big M16s out and firing back, I said, "Oh no, this is something's not right here." But it was a great for like he was 21. I think it was 21 at the time. It was such an adventure, with all those guys, Mal Meninga, Peter Jackson, all those great
Amazing,
players.
amazing team. So, what's it like actually playing the Kumals? Because they're rock hard people. Like they must be absolutely
Oh yeah,
physically tough to play.
yeah, without a doubt. They're made of concrete. Sometimes you hit them, you go, "Oh, I've put a good tackle on there," and they just laugh at you. It's they're a great rugby league nation, and I'm so pleased that they're going to be joining us in the future in the NRL. But up there was crazy times. But again, as I said, I never felt frightened or in fear of anything. It was just a great adventure for a bloke who was 21
Yeah.
and 22, and I'm just going, this is just unbelievable. I loved it. I thought it was one of the best tours I've ever been on.
100%. You'll never have anything like that again in your life, guarantee it.
No,
Never.
no.
In 1995, you were recalled to the Kangaroos for a three-test series against my Kiwis, starting at halfback in all three matches. You came away with a clean sweep, defeating my team, which had the likes of Gary Freeman, Brendan Tudor, Quinton Pongia, Ruben Wiki, Jared McCrae. Amazing side. And you guys polished us off pretty easily, really, to be fair. What was that experience like taking on the Kiwis?
Oh, it was. I mean, every time you take on the Kiwis, it's always going to be a close match. I mean, there's a couple of games that really stick in my mind, not from that series, but around that time, was just after that, the World Cup, which we might talk about later. Um, Matthew Ridge, who was playing for Manly at the time and also playing for the Kiwis.
Yeah,
I'm talking about World Cup now, that sticks in my mind. Um, and was even, well, I think it was 20 all or something around that time, and it was only 10, 15 minutes to go. He had a penalty goal to put him in front, and they would have won the game. But unfortunately, they lost it at the back end of it. But it's always close with the Kiwis. If you take them for granted, they're going to pull your pants down, which they did
yeah,
just recently.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that was an amazing era, actually. Was that the 95 World Cup?
Yes,
I think it was the semi-final you guys played each
yes, it
other.
was. It
Yeah, and
was.
they hung in
Yes.
there for quite a long time, and then you guys
Oh,
just sort of run away with it at the end.
well,
Yeah,
again, I've never seen him miss a goal like that. Actually, Reggie, I think he hit the crossbar and bounced back. Otherwise, I would have been in front. So, thanks, Reggie.
thanks from Tooves. Oh, good. So, 95 massive season. You mentioned it before. Super League, hit the scene. It was a little bit crazy. There's money flying everywhere, players moving around. You know, what was your journey, through that Super League war? And how did it affect the side? Because you guys ran right. You like won what, 15 or 17 games in a row or something to start the season,
15
something
straight,
crazy like
yeah.
that.
Lost the grand final, though. Anyway, don't bring it
Yeah,
up.
we'll talk about that soon.
um, yeah, look, the funny times. There was a lot of cash being thrown around everywhere. Whilst Rupert Murdoch and Gary Packer fought for the game. Um, yeah, it was. We had probably had the premier team at the time, um, and we were hotly contested. Some of the players in our team, I know, most of them stuck with the ARL, but
Yep,
there was a few that went. Reggie was one of those. Ian Roberts. Um,
yep,
yeah, there's a few guys that got picked up in the Super League, but it was just such an incredible time for rugby league, tumultuous time, because I suppose the players were saying, "Hey, where did all this money come from, and where
yeah,
was it before? Why
yeah,
weren't we getting paid before?" So obviously, there was some discrepancies with the past, but and maybe some of the players were a bit put out because of that, and
yep.
hence when Rubens came along, they took the money and run.
Yeah, fair enough. Did you get personally approached by anyone from Super League or like
I wish.
because Manly because Manly like with a man that were the other side I would have thought Super League would have been
Yeah,
chasing.
it was funny. They I think because it's their relationship with the coach Bob Fulton at the time, and his relationship with the pack with Kerry Packer. And Ken Arthurson was the chairman of the ARL at the
Yes.
time. So I think they stayed away from us to try and lessen the pushback immediately. But yeah, it was crazy times, and things were changing daily.
Yeah.
Whether that be the direction of the game or the amount of money that was being paid to people.
Yeah. So I guess ARL they did sort of like you say they did pull out the checkbook, save the ARL, and then
Yeah,
further along, obviously everyone come back together. But for that '95 season, you guys got off to a cracking start. Like I said, like a massive run of wins, and you found yourself all the way to the grand final. Only two losses before the grand final, and then unbelievable, the Canterbury Bulldogs got on a row, and they're your
yeah.
opponents. What happened out there?
Oh, the Bulldogs, they played well. We probably didn't play all that well, not well at all, really. But I mean, the same game, things didn't go our way. Like it was, I think it was meant to be. Like they scored. Uh, Jimmy Dimmick, who now works at Manly, he threw like a 5 metre forward pass for one of their tries. And then I think it's the only game in probably history that they scored another try on a seventh tackle. But no one
Yes.
picked it up during the game. The referee missed it, and just one of those things. When the odds are against you, sometimes
Yeah.
these things happen. And as you mentioned, 15 straight, and I think we lost two all year, and we lost one of them was the grand final.
It's crazy times. Like, what's it like though? Playing your first grand final, running out with the epic crowd. Was this like one of those wow moments? Like, did you sleep all week? What was your preparation like? The grand final breakfast, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing you got to deal with. I think all the media attention, the disruption to training, and the events that you need to go to. I mean, you need to take them in your stride and then still do the usual training and your preparation for the grand final. It was exciting. I must admit. Um, I thought we were laid down Misère probably to win if we played well, but it wasn't to be. Very disappointing at the end. I know I was devastated sort of when that final hooter went, not
Yes.
because of those indiscretions that I mentioned, but just because we saved our worst performance probably for our last game, the most important game.
Yeah.
So it was very disappointing.
I can't believe you guys didn't score a try. Like, you're just the most dominant attacking side all year, and 4 points from 2 goals, I believe, something like that.
But yeah,
Crazy.
thanks for rubbing it in. That's good. Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Right, let's move on to nicer times. 1996, basically a carbon copy of 95, except this time you went all the way to the trophy, mate. Let's talk about the good times. What's it like when that final hooter goes off against the Dragons if you won yourself a grand final?
Well, I was just relieved that we got it out. But to be honest with you, I was relieved that it was over and that we'd won,
Yep.
particularly after the carnage from the year before and the feelings that I felt after that final hoot of the year before. Um, whilst I wasn't elated, I was, as I said, I was relieved. It was just one of those things where I said, tick, done now. I've done it. And sure, afterwards, I was happy and I was very grateful that I was in that situation and we won. And I enjoyed the company of the players after the game as well. But just when that final hooter went, it was just a moment for me of relief,
Yeah.
particularly because that year before we lost, um, that it was over and we'd won the trophy and the fans would go back to Brookvale, we'd go back to the Leeds Club, and the fans would say, "Well done, good on you guys, you achieved a great goal."
Yeah, man, it must be epic to just now after all those years of playing and then to finally reach that top of the mountain, is that when all that training and all the commitments that you've given to and hurting your body the whole time for years, it's all pays off in that moment.
Yeah, well, as they say, you got to lose one to win one. They say, but I don't think that's right. I mean, I'd much rather have won one than won another one. But yeah,
For sure.
again, I hate I hate saying this sounds a bit presumptuous, but I was just so relieved that after losing the year before that we'd actually achieved that goal was more I said more a relief than joy in my situation.
Sweet as, man. Okay, so also 96, great for you. You got selected for halfback for New South Wales. You got to run it a full series this time, and you got the clean sweep. How amazing was that?
Yeah, look, it was a great series. But anyway, anytime you beat Queensland is a great thing, for a New
Yeah.
South Welshman. Um, Even though you have to play probably a few weeks later in the Australian team with a few of them. Betting the blokes from up north is always good. And New South Wales had a bit of dominance through that period, through that early sort of that 90s period in the mid 90s. So it was a great time. I enjoyed again. Again, it sounds a bit silly as well, but I enjoyed the week before the game being
Okay.
mixing with those players that from other clubs that you're in awe of and where you're your idols or someone you looked up to. Spending a week in camp with those guys was just unbelievable. It was a great experience, and that's the thing that I'll treasure. Even though the game is important,
Yeah.
those relationships you build with those fellow competitors and fellow teammates is just unbelievable for that week before. So I enjoyed the camp more than the game, probably.
That's funny. I was actually going to be, because you just mentioned you love getting one over Queensland. I was actually going to be a smart ass and wear my Queensland jersey for this, but
Oh,
I decided against it. I went with the Kiwis instead.
good idea.
Yeah, I thought that was a better plan. You might not come back on. Funny. Right, so 1997, strange year for rugby league. Obviously, the two competitions, and you found yourself winning another series for New South Wales and going to your third straight grand final. This time against Newcastle. Obviously after winning one, man, this must have been heartbreaking in the way that Manly lost in those dying seconds of the game. Like, what's going through your mind in those last minutes of the game when Robbie O'Davis scored and then helter skelter the last minute? And
Yeah,
just
look,
must have been brutal, mate.
to be honest, it was a game that we probably controlled. We should have been up by probably 20 or 30 points at half time. Um, but they hung in there. Sometimes when you're close enough in the rugby league, you're good enough. And they were close enough towards the end of the game and scored a late try and then went on with it. So it's really, that was probably heartbreaking. In due respect, I thought we were probably the better team, but just couldn't ice the tries, couldn't get across the line and put those points up on the scoreboard. So disappointing. Yeah, as I said, we lost in '95, and that was because we didn't play well enough. We won those 15 games in a row, and we were the dominant team all year. But that game, we didn't play good. We didn't play well enough. '97, we probably played well enough to be, as I said, a few more points in front towards the end, and probably would have held off the Knights 8 charge. But as I said, sometimes you're close enough, you're good enough, and they were good enough.
I think they just got like there was a little bit of luck involved with how it all happened, and just I think Andrew Johns went for a field goal, it got charged down, and then just all those
Yeah.
little events that just come together, and somehow I don't know how they pulled that out, but it's one of the most dramatic ends to a game I've ever seen. Crazy.
Yeah, and yeah, it was it's a very exciting and very. I mean, I hate saying this, but it was very good, I suppose, for rugby league. Newcastle was just after the Super League, and Newcastle were a really strong supporter of the ARL, and
Yes.
a great fan base up there, and great followers of rugby league. So it really did boost rugby league up in the Newcastle area. So congratulations to it. Would have boosted Manly's supporters too.
Oh, right. Well, that was the catalyst to, 1998. The NRL's been born, the competition's whole again. How did it feel from a player's perspective to have all the sides back under one umbrella again? It must have been great to get like the Broncos and the Bulldogs and the Raiders and Warriors all back together.
Yeah, look, it was a great sign that the game was so wanted by so many commercial partners, but
Yes.
the two parties that were involved at the time were just ripping the game to bits, and it wasn't good for anyone. So seeing it come together again, I think everyone was relieved, um, particularly the fans, and I think that showed the amount of the number of fans that turned up to see those games you just mentioned. There's plenty of booing going on still for those teams that went to Super League, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of booing on the other side as well.
So the downside, I guess, of the NRL and league going professional, we started losing clubs or clubs having to merge. The Dragons, the Steelers, and you had the Tigers, the Magpies, and then obviously we had the Northern Eagles.
Yeah.
Born out of two rivals and two clubs that didn't necessarily mesh that well, I guess, at the end of the day. So, what was it like going through that whole period and like Manly and North Sydney
As,
coming
as a,
together?
as a player, it was tough. I was the captain of that side, um,
Yes.
so it was very strange time. I was only there for 2 years. The venture only lasted 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
It's sort of the end of me. I retired not because of that, but that was part of the reason. Just lost that passion for the game. I was obviously coming towards the end of my career anyway. But yeah, it did take a bit of the passion and emotion away from playing football
Okay.
for the club. Um, in saying that, it was a great side with great players, and the players did a really good job of bringing everyone together. And the players, I thought, were really good in instigating that combining the two teams. It was more, I think, the fans and the officials that were having trouble doing it. And
Okay.
once you had officials coming out and saying that, oh, it's just a short term means to an end, then it's very hard for the players and particularly the fans to get on board if that's the case. So I think the fans particularly struggled accepting it and getting on board. And if you haven't got fans, well, you haven't got a game. So yeah, well, it was really tough times, particularly commuting between the Manly area and sort of we were trading up at Gosford as well,
Yeah.
the overload there. Um, it was tough. We didn't really have a home ground. We had two home grounds.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. It was difficult for the players, I'll say that, but they went on well. But it was really difficult for the fans. There's a whole new fan base, especially had to reform to support the Northern Eagles. Um,
Yeah.
and it just didn't, we're both clubs. I mean, North since inception, Manly since 1947. So they had great histories, and all of a sudden you've got a club with no history. Very hard to attach the fans to it and to get them to be. They were passionate about it. The ones that were there, it's very hard to mobilise the numbers needed to support an NRL team.
Yeah, and you see now, like the Bears are still trying to come back. They're still trying to come back all these years
Yeah.
later, and it's still probably going to have to be a merger. So, how do you see that playing out? Because you've got the PNG bid, you've got the Western Bears, which it looks like that was over the line, and it's sort of gone
Yeah.
cold. And now we've got a Christchurch bid to where I live, but that's not looking too promising either.
Me personally, I've had this discussion with several officials over in New Zealand. New Zealand needs another team. In my
100%.
opinion, there's no denying it. I mean, one for to create the enthusiasm and the excitement for players and fans, but also you imagine the local derby. I mean, it
Right.
would be one of the biggest promoters of rugby league in the
Yep.
nation. I've got nothing but good thoughts, and hopefully, if I can help out, I'd love to help out a new team in New Zealand because, mate, you guys need it. You need it, and
Yep.
I reckon you could easily be successful in two teams over in New Zealand.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you've always expressed interest, even at the Warriors back in the day when they were looking for coaches, and you did apply for a couple of times at
Well,
the
I didn't
Warriors. Was that
apply.
correct?
Eric Watson flew me over one time actually, and I had a chat with him when he owned the Warriors. Um, I love the New Zealand people. I love the New Zealand nation. I think, and I love them playing football. I love how they play. I just think that for them to be starved of another rugby league team, whether it be in the North Island or the South, I'm not sure. I'm not logistically over that as well as you be, Dave. But I just think you have a game in town every week.
Yeah,
The passion of the fans, I've seen every time I'm over there, and the players. You've got so much talent over there, so much athletic talent over there. I think you wouldn't have a problem filling the team with great players. So um, I just see it as a no-brainer.
me too, man. I literally live across from the new stadium they're building in
Mm,
Christchurch. I could throw a stone at it,
yeah.
and we've got great rivalry with Christchurch, Auckland. I'm actually a North Islander. That's where I was born, but I
Yeah.
live in the South Island. But mate, that rivalry, like you mentioned, would be off the charts. For NRL, like in New Zealand, it'd be our state of origin just without the
That's
state of
exactly
origin
right.
title. It would be epic.
Without a doubt, Dave. I keep saying that, but the Warriors haven't been successful. Well, they have been successful, but they haven't won a grand final, and I understand that. But there's plenty of athletes over there, plenty of football players over there that want to be involved, and
Yep.
it would generate so much support, so much passion for the
Yeah.
game in New Zealand, whether it be North Island or South Island. I don't care. The rivalry and the local derby, I would buy a plane ticket and I'll fly over just to see the game. It would be an
Okay.
awesome game. There'd be so
Yeah.
much passion. It would
No.
just so entertaining.
Oh, I love it. I love your enthusiasm, man. Let's get this Christchurch bit off the ground. We need it so bad. So, like you said, you called time on your career, 2001. What was it like going through that mental process of hanging up the boots? Were you quite ready? Like you were sort of alluded to the fact you were sort of
Yeah,
ready, you know?
yeah. I was done. I was mentally done with that merging of the Norse and Manly playing that year. It was very difficult, and I had a year left on my contract as well, and I just said, look, my body was giving up as well, so it was time for me to say time to go, and I knew that. Um,
Okay.
but those other factors did help me along a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, it wasn't. I had a profession to go back to, so it wasn't like I was a rugby league professional and that was all I had. So that worked out well. I went back working in town for the firm in there, so it was okay. It wasn't as exciting as playing rugby league full time, but it was a job and it paid the bills, and they were good people in there as well.
It's so interesting that you're like doing accounting. Like I would never have guessed that out of all the things you could have done.
My
Is
numbers
there
big.
doing accounts for people. I
It's
love
all about
it.
the numbers.
So you moved on to coaching after playing. So was it always the plan to get into coaching, and how did that all sort of happen?
No, I had it was about a year or a bit over a year and a bit, and Des Hasler was coaching down at Manly. They'd gone back to Manly. The Northern Eagles had broken up and had gone back to the Manly Warringah. And Des Hasler was coaching reserve grade or the lower grades here, and he got the opportunity to coach first grade. And he said, "Look, Geoff, I haven't got a reserve grade coach. Do you want to come down and look after them?" I said, "Des, I'd love to. It was only a part-time sort of role." And then that morphed into turning. After I did a year, that we were quite successful for a ragtag bunch of players that we had.
Yeah.
And a year later, he said, "Oh, Geoff, do you want to come on to my full-time coaching crew, and I can be an assistant coach for that first grade / reserve grade those players?" And I said, "It beats a can, so you've got me."
Oh, how good. So I guess that's something you genuinely enjoyed, and you experienced a lot of success moving into the head coaching role, going to a grand final. You're coaching the team you've won a grand final with as a player. Like, how special is that to be able to actually coach your team in a grand final as well?
Yeah, look, again, I seem to have that effort of that area covered in regards to getting the grand finals. It's winning them. It's the problem.
Yeah.
So we lost that game as well. And then it was such an exciting time, though. As you mentioned, getting to the grand final, it is the pinnacle of sort of local rugby league. So it was great to get there, but like my first grand final that I lost, I was just a bit devastated. We just didn't play as well as we could have, and it's all well and good if you lose a grand final and you played well and the other team was better. We just didn't put our best efforts forward, so I was a bit disappointed in our public preparation. Not our
Yeah.
preparation, but the way we performed on the day, I should say. Um, so that was disappointing, but great achievement to get there. Unfortunately, we couldn't back it up the next year either. But yeah, it was a great experience for me as a coach. I loved it. Um, again, I love getting there, but it's so
Yeah.
disappointing when you're just that far away of
So
succeeding.
close. That's quite a close grand final, wasn't it? It was against the Roosters. I think it was like
Yeah,
16-12 or something. That's when they roped in Sonny Bill and I think Michael
yeah,
Jennings, James Maloney were their big signings that year. And
yeah.
they just
SPW just managed to get him back for the back half of the season somehow in the salary cap. I don't know how they did that.
yeah, don't know. Unbelievable. Okay, so what's the pressure of being an NRL coach like? Like, I have to ask you about there needs to be an investigation gate. We've got to talk about that. I think it was the Steve Maddai try. He clearly grounds the ball, slides over the line. It's sent upstairs as a held up. You're in the press conference. It's given no try. You absolutely blow up on TV. Like, what is that pressure like? What was that moment like? It's gone down in folklore.
All right, let's talk about the real turning point. Let's talk about the no try. Steve Maddai held up. Unless I'm blind, I can see the ball on the ground. So what was the decision? Can someone answer me that? Someone.
That rule has just painted them in.
Well, no, hang on. He said held up.
But the ball's on the ground. Therefore, he's not held up. So what did they get wrong?
Well, they claim, obviously, that there was no conclusive proof to change that, which goes
What? So the ball was on the ground or wasn't on the ground? You're saying the ball wasn't on the ground?
I'm not saying that. That's
well, what do you think?
They're saying that I think it was ground before the line. And then they got lifted up and held up over.
Oh, come on. Come on. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. There's got to be an investigation into this. This has got to be, someone's got to be accountable for this. And they've got to be accountable for the penalty count. I mean, it ended up 10-5 and there was a couple of even up ones at the end. I mean, aren't we meant to have the best referees for this game? Were they the best referees we've got? 10-5 penalty count. It was 6-2 the first half, and the Manly side still managed to be in front.
Which one? I could see it from the replay, yeah.
But the two blokes in the box couldn't see it. Well, they need high-definition TV, bigger ones. So if it was held up, I can see the ball on the ground. I don't get it.
Look, I'm passionate about the players and about the team. And if things are obviously that things aren't right, the right decision's not being made, well then I would be seen at least to be trying to stick up for my players. I mean, they've just slogged their guts out on the field for 80 minutes and they've come up with that rubbish. I mean, and I called it rubbish because it was. And then the referees boss the next week goes, "Oh, we trust our referees to go on their gut instinct." And I said, "Well, what do we teach in school? Instinct or probability? I think we teach probability, don't we? And his probability is that he scored the try, not his instinct." Anyway.
Oh, that one's never gonna go away, is it?
Anyway, it's fish and chip paper now, isn't it? Eh?
Oh yeah, it was great fish and chip paper. It was like when I had Brent Todd on and he did the whole Gold Coast signing where he said he's going to go up to the Gold Coast. Mate, at the time he thought, I never imagined social media would be a thing where we'd still be talking about that 30 years later.
I know, that's what happens.
So fun.
You can play 30 tests or 15 star average, and I just remember that one incident that's on TV, or one thing you said, and that's it.
It's one of the great moments of your career.
I coached. I helped coach a bit of the Ringa Rats down here in the Shute Shield, in Sydney Shute Shield, and don't worry, the rugby fans were giving it to me as well. I was walking across the oval, they were yelling out, "There needs an investigation too." So I just can't get away from it.
You never will, mate. Just own it. Just own it. It was brilliant. So you also had coaching stints at Bradford Bulls, the Samoa Rugby League team. And so what were some of those experiences like, having a crack at the Super League?
Well, going over to Bradford was a dream of mine as a player. When I first started playing, a lot of the players did yearly rugby league. They go to England in our summertime, their winter, because I was playing winter. And then they come back to Manly and play here in our winter. But then the silly Pombies changed it to summer comp.
That's right.
So we couldn't do it. So I always wanted to play there. And by the time, as we mentioned before, by the time I retired, my body was done. So when I got an opportunity to coach over there, I jumped at it. It was such a great. I always wanted to dive into the culture of the English game because their fans are so talk about passionate fans. The fans are crazy. They love it. And I just wanted to go over and see their culture and their rugby league culture. And I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity to go over there and coach Bradford and experience that English rugby league culture. It was fantastic. Had a great time.
Yeah, man, I love the English game. It's really frustrating, actually, because Sky Sports is not showing it in New Zealand anymore. It's very frustrating, so I don't get to see any. But, there's some amazing talent comes out of the UK. I love the test matches. Some of the great British players, incredible. So it must have been awesome to get over there and get amongst that passion that the British have.
Yeah, well, Andrew Chalmers and Graham Lowe got me. They owned the club at the time over there, and they took it over. That was in receivership, and they took over. And so they invited me over to be the coach. So I thank them for that experience. But it was such a funny thing. There was where I was living in Bradford. There's a pub on every corner. So I'd go after training every day. I'd go to a little pub and I'd have a beer, a pint, and there'd be the same bloke at the end of the bar, just not paying any attention to me. And I came about a month later. He looks up at me and goes, "How are we going to go? How are we going to go this weekend, Geoff?" He knew all the time. He never said a word to me. Didn't welcome me in, or didn't say, "Do you want a beer?" or anything. And then all of a sudden, a month later, he goes, "How are we going to go this weekend, Geoff?" Oh, Jesus! It was great. The fans were fantastic over there. They really took you in and made you one of their own. It was a great time. I love the English game. I love Bradford. We were only in second division, mind you, but what a great culture and what a great fan base they've got.
Yeah, man. What about your time with the Samoan side? Like, how did all that come about? And did you coach them at a World Cup? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Interesting.
came second, bro. So Matt Parrish, who was my assistant coach here, he was the coach of Samoa at the time. And he said, "Do you want to come on and help me out? We're going to the World Cup, etc., etc." And I said, "I'd love to." And I love the Samoan culture. I love being amongst the footy players, and they got on board, and we had a great time and had a lot of success. So Australia were just too good at the end. They give us a bit of a touch up, but they were just too good. But we had a great, fantastic tour, and the amount of football talent coming from Samoa is incredible. So they should be very proud of their culture.
Yeah, man. Like that first round, I think you got flogged by England, but then that semi-final is one of the greatest
Yeah.
games I remember watching in a long time. Like, because I thought who'd be fun with had you guys beat, and then all of a sudden Steve Crichton he just does what he does and gets you guys over the line for the win right on the hooter. Unbelievable.
Well, luckily I wasn't the head coach because the referee was quite dubious, I thought, on some of his decisions, but that's another story. But it was so pleasing because not that because they were the host of the tournament, because of what happened in round one, where they give us a touch up. But we had a lot of the Penrith contingent who played the grand final. They couldn't get over till after that game, so they weren't included. They were there that week before, so that did give us a fair boost for that second encounter against England. But what a great game, and being and I said the host nations and beating them in such a close contest was a fantastic experience for the team. Unfortunately, we fell short against Australia in the final.
Yeah, mate. If you said 5 years ago even that Samoa would be playing in a World Cup final, New Zealand's nowhere to be seen, England's nowhere to be seen, you'd have said no way. Like any fan would have said no way. But here we are. Unbelievable times for International Rugby League.
Well, I think it just goes to show that the sport in those areas, particularly in the South Pacific, sort of around you guys, is just growing great guns, and it is growing exponentially every year. So who knows? Maybe in the future there might be a Samoan team or a Tongan team
Pretty cool. Be pretty cool. Be pretty awesome. Right, man. So to finish off, like, is there any one particular moment of your career that stands out above the rest?
That's such a tough question. I think probably my first run-on game against that Great Britain side.
Okay.
That was just such in my home ground at Brookvale, a packed crowd midweek, coming against this international team. I just thought that was really eye-opening for me, and a great, I suppose, rugby league spiritual moment for myself. If I could have just sat down there and absorbed it all, it would have been fantastic. But I had to play a game, so it didn't quite work out that way. But we won that game, and I think I got man of the match as well. So it was all
awesome.
around pretty good experience for me. I think I had to go back to school the next day. But anyway, no, I just left school.
Right, two very, very quick questions, not league related, just to find out a bit about Geoff Toovey. So what is your favourite TV show, series or movie of all time? There must be one thing that you love watching.
Jeez. You put me on the spot there. There's so
100%.
many, but I used to like Big Wednesday as a kid because we used to do a bit of surfing at school. So if anyone's out there that like watching a good funny movie, Big Wednesday is the one.
Big Wednesday for Geoff Toovey. All right, last question, man. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
1-0.
One meal.
Gee,
What's your
1 meal.
favourite food?
Oh well, I have to go for a nice bit of fish and chips. I think
Oh, good. Kiwis love a good fish and chips, mate.
that's
That's
what I'm saying.
brilliant.
It's good. And I like the fishing, so I'll stick with the fish.
Beautiful, man. Geoff Toovey loves the fish and chips. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been an absolute treat to have one of the legends on the show, man. I'm really privileged, and just thanks for your time. It's been bloody brilliant.
Thanks, Dave. Good to be here, and we'll get that another New Zealand team going, eh?
Yeah, man. Sounds like a plan. Thanks, everyone out there, for watching. This has been the incredible Geoff Toovey. I've been your host, Dave. We've been back in the day, and we'll see you next time for Kick Up.
Full time.